Right. All right, we are live. Thank you everybody for joining. Thank you everybody for joining us for the first meeting of September of the Police Accountability Board. I'm Larry Knox, Chair, and we'll do a quick round of introductions, and then we'll get into our agenda. Rabbi Settle.
Hi, I'm Rabbi Dora Settle. I represent the Northwest Council seat on the PAB.
Dr. Harrison.
Hello, I'm Bob Harrison. I'm a council representative.
Reverend Nikoloff.
I'm Reverend Matthew Martin Nikoloff.
To a different room, and we'll be set up in a sec.
Sorry.
Good, or
Oh,
do
you
it
got
again?
cut off, Reverend Nikoloff. Hey, go ahead.
Oh. Reverend Nikoloff, Council South Rep.
Ms. Brown.
All right, evening, everyone. Arlene Brown, and I'm a appointee of the PAB Alliance. And what a delight to be here. And thank you all so much for joining us this evening.
Marina.
I am Marina Pacheco Walker, and here's my camera. And I am the secretary to the board.
Thanks, Marina. I'd like to thank Melanie and Alana for interpreting for us tonight. And we have another board member too joining us late, and also our acting manager, Dwayne Bosco, will be joining us later also. So first thing on our agenda is approving the minutes from our last meeting on August 18th. They should be in your email from a week ago and also again this morning, so that everybody get a chance to review the minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval.
Second.
Okay. So moved. All, let's have a vote. All in favor of approving the minutes from August 18th, say aye, raise your hand.
Okay, I see Knox, I see Brown, I see Settle, I see Harrison, and I see Nikoloff. Motion carries. And I'm sorry, I missed who seconded.
Nikoloff.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so those will be up for for anybody in the public to look at shortly on our website, along with all of our previous minutes. So usually on this part of the agenda, we have our staff report, but Mr. Bosco is not here yet. So we'll come back to that and get to our chair's report. So I guess two things I'll talk about. One, just briefly, me and acting manager Bosco did do a ride along today, which I think went really well with the RPD. Underneath the charter, all of our board members are required to take part in ride-alongs along with select members of our staff. So Dwayne and I Mr. Bosco and I did the first one today. We're out there for a few hours this afternoon, and I think it was informative. Some good questions, I think on both parts for us and the officers that we were with. And I think it is really important as we do this work that we have the opportunity, which I'm glad we do, and I'm glad it's in the charter, and take that opportunity to see the work of the officers and for them to be able to ask us questions, for us to be able to ask them questions and see, what happens as that work is happening in the community. So yeah, I'm glad they're starting. We'll be scheduling more with the rest of the board and with staff members, and Dwayne can talk about his perspective on it when he gets on. But I think that's good that it started, and it was very informative, and I learned a lot, and hopefully going forward you will too. And just have your questions ready and your eyes open. I guess that's all I can say. But it was a good experience. I do want to give an update, as much as I can update on our the investigation that is still ongoing with our executive director, Connor. So as you know, he is on paid leave right now, as many of you I'm assuming know, and that investigation is still ongoing. It has not concluded yet. And I don't have any details of any findings of the investigation. It is still ongoing, but it is more than halfway done. So I think we're closer to the end of that than we are to the beginning of it. And once to remind everybody, Once that investigation is done, there will be a report coming out of that, and there will be recommendations in that report, and then us as a board will decide, what to do based off those recommendations. So that I know it's been a while, and we do want, I'm sure the public also, and us as a board and the staff, want to be able to see what that report says, and for us to be able to make our decisions based off the recommendations in the report. But it's still ongoing. I think it's closer to the end than it was before, and that's really the only update I can share. We on the board, along with City Council, get the exact same updates in that investigation, so Council knows as much as we do in regards to that. And then once that report is done, we'll work with Council on figuring out what could be made public and shared, and what has to stay confidential for personal reasons, and for confidentiality in regards to personnel matters. But we are, still waiting for that report to be finished. Any questions on the report? Yes.
I think
Patrick.
just to remind the public, we're pretty quiet because part of the investigation's requirement is that board members and anyone involved in the investigation not be talking to the public about the investigation. So I've heard a few people ask, why aren't you commenting on it? And I think it's not an intentional silence or a desire not to, have it done, but just that it's respecting the integrity of the investigation. So to anyone who's wondering, why aren't they talking about it? Where is all this stuff? And why might some people be talking about it and others aren't? Like, we all made, it's part of the standard procedure that, we not comment on it with anyone until we have all the facts and all the information. We don't want to get anything wrong or say anything that might end up not being true to the investigation. So I know that's frustrating to a lot of people because people want to know what's going on, but I appreciate Chair Knox giving us that update. And just to remind the public, we'd love to see it as resolved as much as anyone, so we can, see what's up and make the best recommendations we can for the city, for the board, and for everybody involved. But it's just as hard as for us as everyone else, because we'd love to be able to move forward. And thanks for everyone's patience as we continue to let the really awesome investigators that are working on this do their work. So
Thanks, Pastor Nikolov. Any other questions or thoughts? Okay. Also, this is going to be part of my report, but I was going to wait till Acting Manager Bosco kind of gave more detail. But there is, there has been, I'll let him go into detail. There has been some progress on, slight progress on getting the access to the data that we've been wanting and talking about. That's also underneath old business, but there is information that has finally started to come in. So our acting manager can give more detail when he does his report. And if he's unable to make the meeting, I'll circle back to that to get more, to go a little bit more detail. But there has been some information finally shared. We don't have the direct access, like we still feel that we need underneath the charter. So we continue conversation about that. But there is, as the beginning of this week, we had got nothing. And that has changed as of a couple of days ago, where we do have something now. So we can, for people that have put complaints in, that have policy ideas, and there's further data that we needed from the RPD, we are starting to get that for a select number of the cases, not all of them, but that process is starting. So Dwayne, I'll let him go into more detail on that. If not, I'll come back into to talk about that a little bit more. So that is a good thing, but it has taken way too long. But I'm glad it's happening. But still, we should have the direct access ourselves. But at least investigations are able to move along now, or some of them are able to move along now. Do we have any committee reports at all? Okay, I will say there's not a report yet, but I know Ms. Arlene Brown, our vice chair, has agreed to, as still forming the committee, but she has agreed to chair our policy committee. So we're still in the midst of forming that and talking with our policy department about how we'll interact. So we'll have more details on that coming forward. Do you have anything you want to add to that, Ms. Brown?
Yes, Larry, we are talking. I'm not sure we'll actually form a committee for this, as to actually, even though the board itself should be setting everything up, we're going to work very closely with the lawyers who have already started. I think Mike Higgins, who has started the matrix and some other things, and get some additional guidance because, as I admit, this is very new ground for me. And we want to make sure that what we do, we're doing correctly. And as far as our getting information from the police department, even though we're not getting everything or the way we want to, and I'm glad that we're finally getting a breakthrough. The community has been so very, very patient, waiting and wondering, and when is something going to happen? City Council did their part, and I'm going to tip my hat off to the mayor and all of those who stood behind their word and went forth and did all they could to make sure that we are getting the information. We need more help, and I appreciate that which we have been given.
Thanks, Ms. Brown. Any other committee reports? Okay. So next on our agenda is old business. RP information I've a little bit talked about. Public comment period, we're still working on that. We're hoping at some point to be able to do our meetings in person, where I think that'd be the easiest and best way for people to be able to comment, so they can actually attend the meeting or not have to figure out, being online and hoping that they have internet access to get in. Part of the reason we're not able to have those yet at our office is because of security, which is something that we're still working on addressing. But that it has not fallen off the agenda, but we are still working on trying to figure out the public comment period. And as always, even if you're not able to comment during one of our meetings, you can send an email, send a question, call the office, go to our website, and we'll follow up with you, either the staff or a board member, any questions or thoughts that you have before or after meetings. And read through the minutes. If there's something off of there that you have a question about, please do reach out to us. Does anybody else have anything for old business? Well, let's get to the new business. I'll set aside case closures because we need Dwayne for that. But PAB board member nominations. As everybody saw, we did have our newest member nominated a couple weeks ago and finally put on, Mr. Cadet, who will be joining us in a little bit, Daniel Cadet. So again, really happy to have him on the board. He took part in our training last week, so it's good to have that engagement. And it's my understanding that we did have the Alliance, Police Accountability Board Alliance, did submit additional names for Shawnee Wilson's seat, the other Alliance seat that was not filled earlier this week. So now that those names are in, we're really, really expecting and hoping that we can get a quick turnaround from council on getting that seat appointed with one of those recommendations. As you remember from watching these meetings, it took way too long to fill the open seat that Daniel took, over 100 days, and we're hoping now that from the names being put in, his name being put in. So I'm hoping now that we have two names into council again, or a few names into council again from the Alliance. When I thank the Alliance for getting those names in, that we don't wait as long to get that seat filled, so our board can be fully have a 9-member board again and help do that work and spread that work around. Yes, Arlene.
Yes, I want to take this opportunity to encourage the members of the community. This PAB board is for you. We are here to service you. And the more people in the community that submit their names to be a part of the board, the better it is. We're looking for, we would like very much to represent all areas of the community. As you can see from our board makeup, we're missing a representative from the Hispanic community and from other communities. So we want to encourage everyone who has a concern and some time that can help us with this. Please be sure and apply to be a member of the board. You may not get through the first round. They rejected me 4 times before I was able to get to the board. So don't be offended if your name goes up and you're not elected. It's all things in good time, but we need the community involvement from all areas and segments of the community. Thank you, Aaron.
4 times. Okay, that's, think of that was their loss for that we didn't have you earlier, but can't believe we didn't get through after 4 times, Ms. Brown. That was one of council's big mistakes. So, but yeah, if you can help us with your council member to encourage a vote. If you yourself are interested in serving on the board in the future or helping us out in other ways, please reach out. But really, talk to your council member. You can go to the City of Rochester's website to see who your council member is, and please encourage them to vote for one of the names that the Alliance has given them, so we can have a full board. And that's what the charter says, what the law says, and we need your help to help make that happen. And again, I do want to make sure to thank the Alliance for getting those names in. All right, so next on our agenda for new items, we have board independence. Dr. Harrison, agenda item, please, Dr. Harrison.
Okay. Let's see if I can.
Okay, perfect. You got it. Oh,
You all can see this?
yes, we see you.
Okay. Up. In terms of independence, I, along with a couple of other people on the board, were some of the first people named to this board. And from that time till now, the issue with our business has been our independence. And I think the people who wrote the law were very settled on the importance of independence. It's the word itself is mentioned numerous times, 9 times I think it is, in the law itself. And these statements at the beginning of the law are pretty unambiguous. That this should be an independent office and it should be an autonomous office. We should have a budget. Now I know all you all are saying, well, we do have a budget, but we can't buy a pencil with that budget on our own. We need somebody's permission in the council office to do that. So this isn't a budget; it's an allowance, and it shouldn't be that way. The same thing holds true for access.
Oh, can you move to the different? It still says that you're still on the independent slide.
I am. I am.
Mhm.
Yep.
No, no.
I don't know what I'm doing then, because it's.
Is that just my screen, or is everybody else just seems just still the independent slide?
It should
Yeah,
say
yes.
access.
Yeah,
So
it
Just-
says
if you
independence.
Try clicking on the budget one.
Well,
Stop notifying me of this.
I'll just say it.
Okay, but wait,
This-
Bob, wait, before you do that, I'm seeing your cursor still on the main thing. What happens if you go to the one that says budget and you click on it
On the left, far left.
on the left?
I don't see anything on my far left.
There, right there.
Here?
Nope.
No,
Keep on going
keep
to the
going
left.
left.
Right
There.
there.
No, on mine, that's just a white screen.
Yeah, we're seeing. Well, double click there. See what happens. Left click. Huh? It's different views depending on the screen share or.
Yeah, yeah.
Can you email
Well-
this to Marina and maybe she could share it?
Well, let me, actually, I didn't even save the file. So
One of the
it's,
interpreters said you are not in presentation mode. That might help.
I don't know what that is. At any rate, let me just, rather than take up your time, let me just, the other slide was about access. And again, the law it seems unambiguous. The words are pretty clear. that we're supposed to have this access, but somehow or another, the city's legal department uses a different language. It must not be English, because they can't agree with this independent autonomous city unit having access to information. And then the last point I wanted to get to is that according to the law, the executive director reports to the board and serves at the discretion of the board. The board conducts an annual review of the performance of the executive director and may remove the executive director for good cause. There's nothing about any other city or organ in the management of the executive director. The executive director is the selection is approved by city council, but after that, nothing. Very similar to the way executive offices are filled in the government, where the Senate does advice and consent, but can't willy-nilly fire the Secretary of State. So I have a suggestion in the form of a motion, and that is that we restore Connor Reynolds to active duty without restrictions. And if reinstated, he's furthermore instructed by the board to meet with each staff person individually to ascertain their concerns and take positive action to assuage those concerns. These actions to be reported to the board at each regularly scheduled meeting in an executive session. That's all I had to say.
I would ask that any discussion in regards to personnel matter be done in executive session, especially dealing with matters that are already under litigation.
I didn't bring up anything that isn't
Public.
clearly public information. It can be easily found in the filings of Dwyer's Article 78 and our response to it.
Dr. Harris, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether or not it's public knowledge in regards to any type of litigation matter. When it comes to personnel matters,
I'm saying I haven't said anything though. All I've said is he should be restored. I haven't said why he should be restored. I haven't said why he was unrestored. All I've said is that he should be restored.
What I am saying, if I can just finish my statement,
and that can't be public information.
If I can just finish my statement, if I can finish my statement. All right,
if you make sense, Dwayne.
Hey,
well, regardless of your opinion, Dr. Harris, regardless of your opinion, Dr. Harris, here is the facts. All right.
First of all, I'm Harris' son.
All right, Dr. Harrison.
I'm not Harris.
Okay, Dr. Harrison, regardless of what your perception may be, when it comes to deciding on personnel matters, especially those that are under litigation, those matters have to be conducted under executive session.
Yeah, I mean, I agree that what Dr. Harrison has mentioned is public, but if we're going to discuss this any further, this would be something that we have to talk about in executive session. So if you want to make a motion, we can go to executive session after we finish the rest of the agenda and talk about this this item that you brought up.
I wasn't aware that this item is under litigation.
Well, we did have a vote of the board already in regards to the investigation and putting our executive director on paid leave. But Dwayne
mentioned that it was under litigation. I'm just saying I wasn't aware that it was under litigation.
All right, so
the process
frankly,
of deciding
because
is under litigation.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Gerard, what?
The process, there's litigation concerning our decision-making process in putting Connor on leave.
Correct.
So there's litigation in regards to the decision that we made,
And you are
separate
aware
from
of
the
that.
investigation itself. But any
That-
further discussion on this? Wait, for Dwayne and Dr. Harrison, I do want to get through the rest of the agenda. We can discuss this in executive session, just so we can have a more full conversation if, we can.
Before we do something, I ask if there's anyone who's going to second that motion.
I don't
Is
hear
that the
you.
motion to second for executive session?
There wasn't a
So the-
motion for executive session. There was just
If
the
there-
open
no,
motion.
no.
from Dr.
In other
Harrison.
words, if there's no second to Dr. Harrison's motion, then we don't need to go into executives to have any further discussion of it.
Yeah.
So first we need to find out if anyone's going to second that motion.
Yeah, is there a second for Dr. Harrison's motion? Okay. I don't see any seconds. If we do go to executive session for another matter, Dr. Harrison, if you want to bring it up there again, we can maybe have another motion, but right now it's failed in regards to us going to executive session for that reason, to discuss it. Anything else in regards to the board independence, Dr. Harrison?
No, sir.
All right, then I will go back to, thank you, Dwayne, for joining us. We'll get back to your report. So the acting manager report, which is normally our second agenda item. Mr. Bosco is here to give us an update. I did talk a little bit about, we already did, just so you know, Dwayne, I did an update on the internal investigation in regards to our executive director's current paid leave. I talked a little bit about some of the help that we finally have got in regards to getting information access, a little bit of a beginning. We talked about the nominations and board independence of our new board member and of the new nomination for our new board seat that went through earlier this week with 2 names. But yeah, back to you for the acting manager report. I mentioned a little bit that we had a ride along, so maybe speaking about that along with everything else.
Absolutely. I apologize. I was trying like crazy because of my internet issues. So I was trying to get that up and running. So I apologize for being tardy. As it relates to the ride-alongs, Chair Knox and myself participated in the ride-along with Captain Sweatman as well as Lieutenant Bellows. In regards to the rest of the board, there are only 2 board members that have submitted their waivers for the ride-alongs, and those need to, there's going to be continuing, I'm sure they're going to be continuing next week. So for those that have not submitted their waivers, please do so. I ask that the waivers be submitted because of the sensitive nature of some of the information that are there. They be submitted in person. If you are unable to drop those off or to mail those in, please let me know, and I will do my best in order to pick them up from you in order to make it convenient. But those waivers are needed. As you know, pursuant to the charter, it's incumbent upon all board members to participate in the ride-along process. During the ride-along, we were able to converse with the officers that are participated to gain a better sense of the calls that went out, the calls that are remaining pending due to either staff issues and also the interactions with the public. And I think that Larry and I can agree that we would like to see more interactions with the public, but there is a sense that there are, from those that are more seasoned, a understanding and a recognition of some of the individuals in the community that can be handled differently from, let's say, a first-year officer who would misconceive the behaviors of an individual. So that's all included in the ride-along. So I encourage everyone to, as soon as possible, get me their information so that we can continue that process. As it pertains to the litigation matters, currently we have 148 complaints that have been submitted to us. Out of those 148, we have 65 that have been submitted to investigations for further investigations. And I know that Larry touched on this before, but I conducted a meeting with the mayor on Tuesday, with the mayor as well as the law department on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, we were provided with information on 5 of the 35 cases that we've submitted with them. Yesterday, we were provided with an additional 10 cases. So the first batch of information requests that have been submitted, those documents have been provided to us. In addition to that, there was a limited number of individuals that were able to view the documents, those being myself, Chief of Policy and Oversight Mike Higgins, Deputy Chief DeJohn Hall, as well as our forensic specialists, Tiffany and Casey. We have submitted a request because of the sensitive nature of the information to either allow us to share the information with the rest of the investigation or to authorize those other individuals that are in investigations in order to have access to the information. So as of today, the rest of investigation has been authorized in order to view the necessary documents that have been submitted. And the second batch of requests they are working on right now in order to get us the necessary information moving forward. Having said that, we are still obligated in order to provide them with a notice of investigation. So, like I said before, there are 65 cases that have been submitted to investigations for further review. Of those 65, 56 of them are still under current review. I have gone through the notice of investigations for those 56 matters, and we'll be conducting individual meetings with the team of investigations starting tomorrow at 10:30. In addition to that, the PABA has reached out to us in regards to interviews of past staff members, and Larry and I are ready to meet with them at 9 o'clock tomorrow to go over their concerns, but we will not be discussing any personnel matters because those are restricted.
Mike, can you just explain a bit the difference between the current review, the 56 that are currently reviewed, and how that relates to the 65?
Sure. So there are matters. There are 3 matters in particular that were reviewed by policy and oversight because the questions that were presented were more to a policy and oversight matter and not an individual officer per se matter. And then there are 5 matters that were submitted to investigations that either don't have sufficient information to move forward with or need to be referred to an outside agency because they involve matters beyond or not and not including RPD officers. So that's the discrepancy between the 65 and the 56.
There's one more. That was 5 that were other agencies or discrepancy or just don't fit. 3 that were policy. What was the addition? What was the other one?
There's 1 that's not sufficient information in order to proceed.
Okay.
And
Laura has her hand up.
Before we go to the draw, just the not sufficient information to proceed. That one was done because there was a video that was submitted, but there's no further information in order to follow up with that one. And I'm sorry, Rabbi.
No problem. I just wonder in terms of the material that you have received from the police department, what percentage would you say is that of what you actually need at this point?
So they responded to the first batch of requests with body-worn cameras, with personnel files, with arrest records. So in going through that matter, and I'm still going through it because the amount of material is substantial. And then up until today, myself as well as the forensic specialist, as far as investigation, we're the only ones allowed to review it. So we are still going through that material. So it does seem, based upon the information that we've received so far, that they are complying with our requests. There are still going to be holes. I did notice several cases that still need additional information, but thus far, as it relates to body worn camera, as it relates to personnel files, and as it relates to disciplinary records, that it has been sufficient as far as coming over. The issue, though, and we have to keep this in mind, is that when it comes to disciplinary records, those are going to be based upon substantiated claims and not necessarily complaints made. So that's a different factor that we have to consider, that when we are reviewing matters, they're going to be those that have been substantiated when we talk about disciplinary matters.
Rabbi Sato, do you have anything else? Okay. And have we received anything from PSS investigations yet?
No. So I had a conversation with Captain Sweatman today in regards to PSS turning over their information, and we're going to continue that conversation tomorrow in regards to the information that PSS wants to turn over. There are some indications that in regards to notification and some preliminary matters that have to be resolved. But based upon my conversation, is that those will be turned over tomorrow, if not Monday.
All right, go ahead.
So that's it for investigation. As far as public affairs, we are still reaching out to agencies. This week we reached out to the YWCA. We have continuing meetings set up next week to reach out to agencies. Thus far, we were scheduled to have 60, based upon the KPI, 60 community outreach projects. We've already surpassed those over the last 2 months. So that's an acknowledgement to the efforts of public affairs in order to set up not only engagement events on the weekends, but also presentations to agencies everywhere from Empire Justice to EPI to the YWCA and other agencies moving forward.
I would know we are doing that without that department being fully staffed, as we're fighting to do.
That is correct. We are still in need of staff for public affairs. We have discussed this matter with President Melendez on several occasions, and we will continue to reach out to the rest of City Council in regards to the need to backfill those positions that have already been approved and for whatever reason are still being held up.
I do want to remind board members, we got email, Marina had emailed out earlier in the week or last week, a link to the activities that the board are doing for outreach. So if there's any that you can attend to help with, I did one last Saturday, although I was already going to be there. But you know, if there's ones that you aren't going to be at already, I know I do want to get some that I'm not going to be at already. Please take that advantage to help the team out and attend some of those events in the city. I know they have some every week. Anything else, Doreen?
No, the only other thing is that the case managers as well as our forensic specialists have been working on grouping and sending to a developed SharePoint, a SharePoint that has been open, by the way, specifically for the board. So this SharePoint has been open specifically for the board so that we can upload cases to that we need to be adjudicated. Initially, there will be the ones that need to be closed due to either a lack of information or the involved officers that are outside of RPD, outside of our jurisdiction. So those are going to be uploaded. The forensic team has already spotted those and are ready to transfer them. So if the board is not trained on SharePoint, please do so. And I've already, I should say I already understand that some members are ready and raring to go. So I will not hold it back any longer. I will go ahead and authorize that to be uploaded to that PA board SharePoint. But please be trained on it so that you can start reviewing it. So at the next meeting, we're going to adjudicate these matters.
Well, now we have a deadline, so that I think that helps, Dwayne. So if I know I've gone through the training, and I won't call anybody out. Some have, some haven't. But if you haven't had a chance yet, follow with Marina. She's willing to do it individually, or Marina, maybe if you want to throw out another date or two next week that people, maybe more than one person can attend, but or give her your availability. But definitely, and I might sit in on another one because it's good to get re-upped on it again. But it's very important that now that we have the investigations are going to be moving quicker, some of them with that data, and we were going to be able to start making decisions or preliminary decisions on cases that we don't need to investigate further. We want to be able to get in there, and then obviously, as you have to start making decisions on cases, we want to make sure that we have that access to the SharePoint along with the training that we'll have going on. If you have any IT issues, I know there was some I had. Marina's able to help us out with that, but please get signed up for that training. Rabbi Settle.
Actually, because for our reasons, we don't yet have our training schedule. And I thought that actually Marina was going our next training on next Thursday. I thought you were scheduled to do a SharePoint training for us. Wasn't that correct?
Yeah, I believe that was. I'm just checking my calendar quickly. Yep, I see a little intro to SharePoint, and I can just re-push it.
Okay, so everybody, so we should all, because then we could also maybe practice looking at some stuff or whatever. So let's plan to do that a week from tonight for our training.
Yep. If you could sign in beforehand, maybe run around a bit, look at it. But yeah, definitely. I forgot that was next week. So yeah, that's it'd be helpful if you already looked at it beforehand, though, because it might give you a little more understanding of it. But yes, that will be our training next week.
And that site is secure, so you don't have to worry about anything else, but that site is secure in order to view those cases.
Okay. Anything else?
No. Auxiliary as far as the other matters are concerned. There were issues that were raised in regards to our equipment for the forensic technicians. Those equipment have been submitted and have been approved so that we should be receiving them shortly. However, there are other issues that are still being held up in Munis because of the need for the approval by City Council, i.e. the signage is still being held up, as well as other technical matters are being held up by City Council in Munis. And those are things that should not be held up. And those are things that we are currently trying to resolve with City Council.
Can you work with operations just to get that list together again? We could follow up like we did with council last month.
I will. But the main part in regards to the equipment for the forensic technicians have been approved and submitted. But we're still running into issues when it comes to contracts and when it comes to signage and when it comes to other expenditures that are needed. And we are still running into issues regarding security. I won't go into further details in regards to that, but we are still working on those issues as well.
Reverend Nikoloff.
I'll just add on this point that regardless of what people thought about the previous presentation about independence, this is absolutely a reason why we need to continue as a board advocate for independence for our budget, to be able to have control, to be able to do these kinds of things. So, I think that's a given for this board. It's not dependent on whoever is or isn't here. It's part of the charter, as Dr. Harrison said. And I think it's pretty absurd that we can't do some of this basic stuff, let alone, as Dr. Harrison said, order a pencil. So I think that's something we can be working on right now with Dwayne as our interim executive director, whoever else is in that chair. And I hope that the public will continue to advocate for that to your representatives as well, that this is not our fault. This is something that doesn't need to be in place. So.
I'm sorry, I just want to reiterate, because oftentimes we hear these numbers, but they're not really put into perspective. So when it comes to complaints received, currently, we are at a pace of 1.3 times the amount that we are scheduled to receive. When it comes to investigations, we are currently at 2.5 times the amount of investigations that we should have completed. When it comes to public affairs outreach, we are 5 times at the rate that we should achieve. And we're doing all of this at 43% minus the staff that we were allocated to have. So while this is commendable, it is not sustainable. And that's the message that we continue to send forth to City Council.
Yeah. And not often there's that much overachievement in government, but yeah, I don't want the staff to get burnt either, burn out over it. I will say, I think we have, in the mayor, we have somebody who is being helpful. In City Council, we have a majority of council members, I think, that want to be helpful. But even with that, you never know who's going to be mayor. I mean, you can make a difference and vote, but if there is a mayor or City Council leadership in place in the future that isn't as supportive or isn't at all supportive as our current leadership, that independence issue becomes even more important. That's why it has to be established now, because even if you have somebody who's 100% on board or 80% on board, that's an elected official and doing what they can to help or try to help in the way that they want to. If you have somebody that's in office that disagrees with this or isn't supportive or disagrees with that, they can make our life a lot more difficult than it has been already. And that's even with folks that we have some disagreements with in council and the mayor's leadership team in regards to our independence, regards to the access to the databases and some of our other things. If we had somebody in that spot that was in total opposition to the complete idea of the Police Accountability Board or the makeup of the board, or had some other issues with what you had voted for as citizens and what the Alliance and others have fought for, that'd be a whole nother battle, which is why the independence was so important. That's longstanding, that goes through all the administrations and all different permutations of who's in charge of council. But this fight that we're having, these disagreements that we're having right now, kind of prove the point of this is what people that are somewhat friendly. If it's not that case, we don't want this being undercut in the future. And we're right at the beginning of establishing that right now, that independence, and we're going to continue to fight that. But we need your help in the public to stand with us on that. Pastor Nikoloff, Reverend Nikoloff.
Dwayne's point exactly. Again, to commend our staff for the hard work they're doing, and the leadership that we're seeing there is amazing. And to your point, Larry, that's a great point. And also to say, imagine what the PAB could be doing with the support of mayor, support of council, and the independence, which shouldn't be like the data sharing, shouldn't be something that we're having to fight for, but is a clear part of the charter, and shouldn't be something that should even be something that's a debate. It should be I think it should be a given. So I encourage our supportive mayor, our supportive council members, and our supportive people to continue to take the literal sense of the law and say, like, let's take this a step further. Let's respond to the above and beyond work of our staff, and of the more than above and beyond ways we've met a lot of the community and the council's demand in terms of workload, in terms of opening, in terms of these things, and give us the independence that is already in the law, and give us the means to excel, and not just to kind of be stuck at it being what we are, which is already awesome. But I think we could really take this to the next level if we just follow the law, right? So thank you to all those folks who are supporting us, and please extend that support all the way so that it's 100% support. Thanks.
Thanks. Again, yep, reach out to your council member and the mayor to help encourage that. For new business, do you have any case closures, Dwayne, easy ones that we wouldn't need the details on? I know before we had done one where it was out of jurisdiction. Are there any others like that, or do we need to wait till we get the SharePoint going?
There are others, but I would advise to wait to SharePoint so that you can review and then vote in a batch. Based upon our last conversation, they're going to be batched by lack of information, need for referral, and non-investigable based upon the information that was received. So you'll be asked to vote in batches concerning those 3 topics, and you'll have those ahead of time to review.
Okay. So for our next board meeting in 2 weeks, you will have those like what, the week before, you think, or that week
Yes.
of the meeting? Okay. So that kind of goes into, we have our SharePoint training next week. Marina, maybe, or as a part of that training, just making sure we could see right now how to access that. Another way, if maybe you could work with Marina, putting like a sample one in there or something, just when we have that training, people can actually see something in there. I think you might have some in there already, I think you said, but I think that'd be good for that training next Thursday for us to be able to actually look at what it's, have something to really look at. That's for real, considering we'll be voting on them the following week. Anything else under new business or any other questions for Mr. Bosco? Or old business, I should say, new business or old business? All right, I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss potential pending litigation. All right, got a second from Arlene and Rabbi Settle. So we'll go into executive session.
I think we have to vote.
Wait to vote. Let's vote first. Yeah, I'm just, all in favor, raise your hand.
Thank you. I see Knox, I see Harrison, I see Nikoloff, I see Brown, I see Settle, and I see Cadet. The vote is unanimous.
Thank you. Let's move to executive session then.
Okay. So I will stop the live stream now, and we will be back after the session to close out the meeting.
All right, and we'll text you, Marina, to give you